What's up, everybody? I hope you all are having a great day. I'm Anthony. On today's video, we're going to be doing a Korean barbecue style venison jerky with a grind, so stay tuned. That's right, today we're going to be doing a Korean barbecue style venison jerky with a grind, meaning I'm going to be grinding it, not doing a whole muscle jerky, so enjoy. Okay, so here is my meat scraps I've been saving from my last two deer. Basically, all I do is just put them together and I freeze them, and that way when I have enough, I can make jerky. So I got 6¼ pounds here worth, and this is the grinder I'm going to use, all right? This is a coarse plate, and here is the fine plate. You want to run it through the coarse plate first because obviously it's going to make it a lot easier than try to go straight to a fine grind. Another hint I would give you if you are using a grinder is make sure your meat is really cold. I mean, like still frozen, because when it's still frozen, it's going to be able to go through that grinder so much easier, and it's not going to gum up that blade. When it's like thawed out, it really will gum up that blade, and it's going to be a lot harder to do. So the colder it is, the better. And as you can see, this is cold. It's really coming out pretty easily. Then we're going to change it to a fine plate. But if you are going to be using a dry rub marinade or like a dry rub, then you're going to sprinkle that dry rub in between the coarse and the fine grind. It's going to make sure it's a lot more incorporated versus just the wet method. So since I'm doing a wet method, I didn't worry about putting any of that marinade in yet, and I'm just going to basically grind it down, like you see here, into a fine grind. See? Nice and fine grind. Now at this point, we're going to put in our pink salt. The pink salt is the curing agent, all right? It's a curing salt. And with this batch, it's 6½ pounds or 6¼ pounds. So we're going to use 1 full teaspoon, which we normally would use for 5 pounds. And then since there's a 6¼ pound, we're going to use 1/4 teaspoon. Make sure these teaspoons are level. You don't need a lot of this stuff. Trust me, this is exactly how you use it if you're trying to cure your meat. The whole reason you're doing this is to make sure you're safe. Now, Korean barbecue, I didn't want to make the sauce. I went ahead and bought this little jar at my local Publix, and I just basically used the entire jar. As you can see, a little bit goes a long way, but trust me, I ended up using the entire jar. So you want to go ahead and mix it together with your hands. Trust me, it's going to come together. It doesn't look like it right now, but it really does. And once you get to a point where it's pretty well mixed and you're pretty happy with it, you need to make sure you pound it down. If you can make it as level as possible, it's going to make it a lot easier for you in the long run, because once you get it completely leveled, you can go ahead and cover it up with saran wrap. See, we're leveling. That way we can cover it up with saran wrap and pop it into the fridge. I like to marinate my meat for between 3 and 36 hours. Personally, this batch itself was done about 30 hours. Alright, so after about 30 hours in the refrigerator, it looks just like this. As you can see, that Korean barbecue has really seeped in and mixed together with that meat because the color is there. Now we're going to get our jerky gun. This one's from LEM, and it is basically about 1 pound is what it holds. And as you can see, the end nozzle, there is a flat nozzle, and there is also a circular nozzle, so you can make like Slim Jims. I'm using the flat nozzle because that's what I always use, and all we're going to do is basically fill this thing up. Now, it can be tricky to fill this thing up because behind, as you see, as you loaded the meat, you get an air pocket behind it. I use a chopstick to kind of break the air pocket, so it's just easier to push in. You can use, there's many different ways you can do it. You can slowly pull back the plunger. Whatever way works for you is how you should do it. But yeah, it just takes about 6 or 7 times of filling this tube up is how long it took to actually do all this entire batch. Now all you're going to do is put that nozzle back on, and we are going to shoot it onto the screens. Now, one of the mistakes that I made was I did not put any kind of non-stick agent. It really wasn't too bad, but if you want to, you can spray it down with some sort of vegetable or whatnot, but it was pretty easy to go down. As you can see here, this is half of the screens. I ultimately end up getting 6½. So as you can see, I tried to change the direction. That way one would be horizontal and one would be vertical. That way hopefully it could dry a little bit easier and more evenly, which it ultimately did. And as you can see here, I got 6½ trays. Now when it comes to your heat, you're going to want to turn this bad boy on. I turned mine on for 2 hours for the first batch, or I'm sorry, for the first run at 167 degrees. Remember, we're trying to hit that 160, 165 degree mark because it's safe. Alright, so after about 2 hours, you're going to want to make sure you flip your jerky over, because if you don't, it's going to stick. And usually after it's already stuck, it's not going to stick again. So if you just pull it off when you can, it's going to be a lot easier for you. Now, after about 5 hours total, I did the bend test. If it bends like this, like a green branch from a tree would, then that means that it is done. You don't want it to break, because if it breaks or cracks, it means you've over dried it. This is perfect, and this is the amount you're going to get. This is 6¼ pounds worth of jerky. Plenty of jerky, as you can see. So basically what I like to do is like to cut mine in half and stick in what's called my jerky jar, which I usually keep on the counter next to the refrigerator, and I just put it into a half-gallon jar like this. When I fill this thing up, that basically means that's about as much me and my family are going to be eating. The rest of the stuff is going to be going to family and friends. So how'd that look? Look pretty good, right? Now I want to go ahead and make sure I answer a few questions before they get asked down in the comments. First things first, why did I choose to do a grind versus whole muscle jerky? Pretty simple. I use this from scraps, all right? When I'm using a whole muscle jerky, I'm probably going to be using a cut like a backstrap or a ham, maybe a roast, but I wanted to keep those backstraps, hams, and roasts for other things. I don't want to use them just for jerky, so I want to be able to use my scraps. So the best way to do that is to be able to grind them up, put them in that jerky tube, and make a long jerky that way, instead of having jerky like this big. Now, why did I mention food safety twice? Pretty much because food safety is one of the most paramount things that is just ingrained in me from being, working in professional kitchens and trying to do this the right way. Food safety is paramount. Now, if you remember back in the early 90s, companies like Jack in the Box had issues with E. coli 0157H7, where it killed like 4 kids. And I want to make sure that never ever happens to me. And the best way to do that is to ensure that your food, especially ground meat, is getting cooked up to at least 155, 160 is better, because it kills that E. coli version. So that E. coli variant is very dangerous, and it's a sugar-producing toxin bacteria, which means that it can toxify your kidneys and actually lead to kidney shutdown in immune suppressed individuals like the kids and elderly people like that. So I want to make sure that my food is 100% safe at all times. So that's why I try to get it to a temperature of at least 160 to 165, and I use a curing salt. Because I use a curing salt, that means it kills bacteria, and getting it over 160 means it kills bacteria. So it means I'm double good. I shouldn't have to worry about any problems. The all important question, how did it turn out? Well, it turned out pretty good. It tastes pretty good, but if I had to say I would do one thing different, I would probably add more of that Korean barbecue sauce. Yes, I don't think I used enough, because when I bought it initially, I thought I was only going to make a 5-pound batch, but when I put that extra bag in there, I'm like, wow, I'm already over 6 pounds, so let's just go ahead and do it. I didn't think it would be that much, taken back, but it is diluted a little bit, so if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would add just a little bit more of that Korean barbecue sauce, just to give it a little bit more, intense flavor. So what kind of equipment did I use? All right, for the jerky gun, obviously it was an LEM. I'll put a link down below to that one. My wife got it for me for Christmas like 3 years ago, and it works out very, very well. It's not very expensive, and I'm not getting any kind of kickback. It's just what I used. And same thing with the dehydrator and the grinder. Those are both from meatyourmaker.com. I'll put a link below to that website. They regularly run specials, so you can always check it out. I did a whole honest review section on that dehydrator. If you haven't seen that video, I'm going to put it up here and down below in the description. Go ahead and check that one out. And the grinder, I've only used probably a handful of times, maybe about 10 times, but it's worked out great for me every single time, so I definitely recommend that one as well. All right, and finally, what is the shelf life of this jerky? Now, it all depends on how you do it, but for me, since I used a curing salt and I went to 165 degrees, that basically means there's no bacteria in there, so there's a really good chance it's going to last a very long time. When I say very long time, I'm talking about up to a year if stored properly. The best way to store jerky is in a cool, dry environment. An airtight container is better with an oxygen absorber is best. But you can stick it in the refrigerator and it will definitely last a year without any questions, no problems. I just want to make sure that I mention that if you are going to be making this, you're probably going to have friends that you didn't even know you had come out of the woodwork. It's kind of like when you buy a trailer or a boat, you now all of a sudden have a whole influx of friends. Same thing if you start making your own jerky. You're going to find friends that you didn't realize you had, especially if you post it to your social media. Hey, can I have some of that? So it's probably not going to last as long as you think it is, so just keep that part in mind. Alrighty, so I think I'm going to end the video there. If you learned anything at all, if you like this video at all, please do me a humongous favor and give this video a thumbs up. Share it with somebody who you think might enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you are not, and I will catch y'all on the next one, alright? Bye.